How about this? We have this tweet from Poster Tubbs who says, Spencer Cox, the Republican governor of Utah, is now officially using the term Latinx in government documents. You can't make this up. And here you can see it says, it just says Latinx. Here's the best part. Take a look at this this is from STL Tribune. Conservative group shares misleading video of Utah Governor Spencer Cox listing his pronouns. The Zoom call was part of a town hall with high school students last spring. Say in April 2021, Zoom call of Spencer Cox, Republican, listing his pronouns during a town hall for high school students has spread on social media after a conservative group shared an edited version of it. How is that misleading? It's literally him sharing his pronouns. They go on to say the original 30-minute Zoom call was part of the one Utah student town hall held last year, where Utah high school students asked the Republican governor questions about the state's COVID-19 response. The edited video makes it appear the governor listed his pronouns right after introducing himself. The statement is followed by the added sound of a sad trombone. During the town hall, one student from Tuacan High School for the Arts in Irvins listed her pronouns when called upon to ask the governor a question. She then asked what his plans were to boost mental health services in schools, citing a survey that found gay and lesbian youth face a higher risk for depression. Well, thank you so much for that question, and my preferred pronouns are he, him, so thank you for sharing yours with me. How is it misleading to show that he literally did that?
He did.
Right.
Because any real Republican would just be like, okay, and then not list their pronouns.
Right. Misleading, sorry, again, this is a new redefinition. Misleading is something that makes a progressive look bad, regardless of whether it's truthful or not.
Exactly.
Right. So, like, that used to be... understand this actually has some reasonable like heritage in English common law. It took a while before like truth was a defense to libel claims, right? Like that was
really?
that was actually Alexander Hamilton litigated that case where he was the first or was a lawyer who finally won the argument in American courts. That's like, hey, I guess we have this First Amendment now, which means that this idea that that truth is not a defense to libel, that can't be right.
Right.
So, but that, it used to be, I forget what the exact term of it, but it's like libel used to be just statements that embarrass someone regardless of whether or not they're true,
and you could sue for that.
Yeah, you could sue for that, right?
Before this,
before the Constitution, even in the colonial United States,
got rid of that.
I hope people realize that could happen again. We could find ourselves in a medieval situation where you get thrown in prison for insult what someone else receives. That's crazy.
That's where we're going.
Shout out to Alexander Hamilton.
Right? Yeah.
Hate speech laws.
Great guy. People really, I'm a big Hamilton guy as opposed to a Jefferson guy. Like Hamilton actually like saw what Jefferson basically wanted us to be an agrarian slave society. He didn't like slavery that much, but he wanted that. And Hamilton was the guy who's like, no, actually, we should have a really powerful country. In general, like America should be strong.
Well, so going back to the main story, though, this is just another very common and typical erosion among Republicans who give in immediately because they're spineless.
Yeah, no, I usually joke that name a more useless Republican than Mitt Romney, right? Who's I love that tweet because everybody engages with it and lists more useless Republicans. So, but yeah, like Utah, what's going on with Utah, guys? Like this is a red state, and we have this wackadoodle liberal governor and a wackadoodle rhino senator. Like,
Also,
get your stuff together.
Imagine insulting yourself on that level, being a man, but telling people that you expect to be referred to as he, him, as if they wouldn't otherwise know. What a ridiculous self-own.
I would, if like I was in a situation where for whatever reason they were like, you have to list your pronouns, I would absolutely just make up some really long and ridiculous word and be like, do it or don't.
Fascinating thing about pronouns is it's like, it comes out when you're not there. Right? How often do you like, oh, he and like they're not in the? It's like the only reason you use third-person pronouns is because you're not talking to that person.
Right.
Right. So it's like you want to control how I think about you when you're not here.
That's the craziest thing.
Which is you're right. You're actually doing violence against me if you don't think about me the way I want to be thought of.
Ezra Miller, the Flash in the DC cinematic universe or whatever it's called.
No.
Ezra Miller came out as non-binary, so all the news articles say they, them, and it's like.
You're butchering the English language.
But it's not even that. Like Ezra Miller, as my understanding, is not trans. Like just came out and said, you have to call me they, them. And they're like, okay. Like, I understand if there's an argument for a trans woman who is overtly passing. And it was like what Ben Shapiro was saying about Blair. It would be very difficult or take a long time to explain why he'd use a male pronoun for Blair White in public to his friends. So he would just say she, her. It's the easiest way to go about things. But in literary or in articles, he would say he, him. And I'm like, I understand that point. I understand why it is simpler just to refer to someone as she, her if they're overtly feminine, or he, him for a trans man who's overtly masculine, like Buck Angel, for instance. But when we're talking about some guy who's like, I'm non-binary, but he's still just a regular, young man, you can't just tell people I have to refer to you in a certain way. You don't own that.